Are you playing the? I don't see. Did you play the
We're live.
intro?
We're talking
Oh,
right now. It's on.
welcome in everyone. RFK Refugees podcast. John, I swear to God, I did not see you play the video. I don't know
It
what
happened.
happened.
It's real.
welcome in RFK Refugees podcast. Ted here, John here. We are live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Instagram as well. I think I'm hearing myself twice.
You are, and I don't
Through.
know why you are. That's no good. Keep going.
Okay. All right. Um. Yeah, man, I've completely lost my complete train of thought. John pulling last minute stuff as he always does.
Ending
That
it.
just
We're
throws
ending
me.
it. We're ending it.
That just throws
Start
me
the show.
off. All right. Let's just. You know what? Let's
Welcome
just.
in, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
Let's just start over. All right.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, welcome in everyone. RFK Refugees podcast. Ted here. John here. Welcoming in. The podcast version will not get to hear the mess that was that in the beginning. If you did, you have to look at the live stream.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I think you know exactly what I'm talking
I don't know
about.
what I was talking about.
John, how you doing, my friend? How was your weekend? Let's just blow past.
It was all right. It was not bad. It was rainy. It was kind of rainy. You had a better weekend than I did, I think.
Did I?
I don't know. Did you?
I had an absolutely miserable Friday.
Oh,
It was pouring down rain, and most games. I did have games, and I was like, oh, these games are going to get canceled. It's surely going to get canceled. And then, unfortunately, the field I was on was a turf field, so couldn't cancel that high school game that had to play. That was cold, wet, rainy. Then I was like, well, surely my other games are all on. I knew they were on grass fields. Only one of them got canceled. I had to do all of them, every single one of them, Saturday, Sunday, which is good. I'll take the money, but it was a little more adventure than maybe I was planning for. I was kind of like, I was set my ways on Friday. I'm like, I'm only going to have to do this game, and then maybe like everything's going to get canceled because the fields are going to be too bad. Nope, didn't happen.
Luck.
So
My baseball game got canceled, so I didn't get to play that.
yeah, because baseball players are weak and can't play on
literally
mud,
is not possible. It's not a possible thing. It's not really.
I disagree. It's just a matter of I disagree. We're avoiding talking about DC United because man, we're living in some pretty bleak times. John, let's get into it. Let's talk about it. We do maybe have some positive news coming in outside of the games, but a 1-0 loss to Cincinnati. What do we make of it? Better performance, sure, but go ahead.
If you started watching at halftime, sure, maybe. Although we watched the whole game, so unfortunately we saw the first half, which looked like I think you could fire Troy in the middle of the game. If it doesn't turn around at halftime, 75th minute, just bring Chad Ashton down from the booth or wherever he is, descend from the rafters, and then coach the rest of the game. The first half was extremely dire. It was a situation where we had more credible attempts scoring on our own goal than we did on the other team's goal. Players did not look like they knew where they were on the field. It was a disaster. And then the second half, it was still lost, so it's still bad. But it was certainly much more credible. It looked like an MLS side that had seen each other before, and there were lots of substitutes. And also, like to your point too, the FC Cincinnati changed, in my mind too, their style of play in the second half, and that lended itself to DC looking a little bit better. But still bad. Still, Matt Doyle has his last place in his rankings, and the review just said nope.
In the Aerocham analyst, he just basically had a comment that said DC needs more talent. I don't disagree with them. We'll talk maybe about some of that talent that might be making its way back. The team still does have a little over a week left in the window. I think the window closes April 23rd, I believe. So a lot of other teams making moves. Maybe DC's on that list of teams that are making moves. I think they definitely need the help. But I found it interesting. So leading up to this game, obviously the Thursday press conference, it was interesting. So during the post game, obviously for the 6-1 loss to San Jose, Troy was like, changes are going to be made. And I think everybody was thinking personnel changes. Then during the post game, he kind of walked that back a little bit. It was kind of like, well, we're going to change how we do things. Like maybe that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to like bench everybody. And then we got to kickoff, and the response was, "Nope, players are gonna get benched." Baraza coming in for Kim Jung Hong. You had McNaughton coming in. Uh, I want to say kind of as a third center back. Rawls and Bartlett, of course, playing, and then you had Shanegan Herrera out there. I think that's going to be ubiquitous. And then you had Cervinia sort of coming in place of Peltola. So there was let's see, 1, 2, 3. I see 3 changes necessarily, and then kind of a whole change. Well, 4 changes, I guess, with Stroud coming in there. I don't know if Kojima counts as a change or not, or if he might not have played. But anyway, so 4 changes coming into the lineup. Um, and you're right, the first half was extremely rough. DC was like trying to sort of play out of the back, and they were just getting steamrolled. Cervinia had a very rough game. Kojima was not active. That entire center of midfield was just non-existent, or giving up the ball. McNaughton especially had a couple really, really bad moments. Bartlett especially too also had some really bad moments. Almost like a literal like not top 10 winner type own goal situation that could have been happened, something that would have been played on TikTok when people talk about how awful MLS is. Thankfully, the ball did not go into the back of the net. But it was rough goings. This was a performance where it was like this could get bad. DC was very fortunate not to be down multiple goals, exiting the first half. Um, I agree with John. Oof, Timothy Park agrees that Troy won't last the whole season. I've kind of had some thoughts about that. Maybe I'll get to that in a minute. But just overall, just like a very rough performance. Maybe like people were saying, the only bright spot was Barraza. Okay. I mean, he was certainly solid. He looked like he was older. What did you do? You think we see Barraza next game, or
Yep.
I think so. And
I think it's a certainty. I think when I think I was saying it somewhere else, like when the house is on fire, it's not the time to let the 22-year-old or however old he is. How old is June? Is he
21.
22?
He's 21.
21.
Mhm.
Let him get his sea legs under him right now because he may have some more time than some people want, but Troy is somewhat still coach. He's coaching for his job at some points. He doesn't want to have multiple 5 goal losses in a row, so he's gonna want to go to the sure hands, and he's looked like that. So I think you
I-
definitely see Barazza out there again
Is
in
he
a row.
is he coaching? Is he coaching for his job? Do you think his job is actually on the line here? I've had some time to think about this, and the formation he threw out, and really the way he sort of went about sort of building this lineup. It makes me feel like he has some leeway with the front office staff to try some things, to do some different things, or to see if he can formulate something. He's not talking like a coach that thinks his job is on the line, if I'm being honest. And when I listen to his press conferences, now everyone says that until they get that call to the front office, and then they're shown the door. But
I think he's a different cat. I think he's very honest and he's very straightforward. And typically, a coach that's coaching for his job never accepts the premise that things are bad, or
fair.
they'll have a scapegoat, and he's not doing that. But I think that just might be him, and I think that would be him right up until the minute he got fired. I don't think he's going to get fired on the back of this. I think it's going to take a while. It's just a matter of prolonged quitting on the coach. So if
And
that were to happen, if that and it hasn't happened yet, except for in the San Jose game, that kind of happened. And in the first half, I would say not necessarily quitting on the coach, but just a complete lack of mentality. But if that were to continue, yeah, he's coaching for his life. I think every coach is at all times, particularly team. He's not really an established name, right? Like he's our guy because he's got a 3-year contract, but his resume is pretty paper thin if you look at the sort of like the global world of soccer, anyway.
yeah, I'm still on the fence that after this performance, I've kind of calmed down. You still see the team come out in the second half. They played better. I thought Kojima in particular had a great performance in the second half. He was active. He was moving. He was able to sort of connect passes again. I also kind of wonder. it felt like in the first half they were trying to do what they did in sort of the old, 4-2-3-1 type formation, which is sort of, slow build up, move the ball, pass it around the back, sort of create like that three center back. And then they were like, well, now we have the three center backs. So let's try to do that again. And I think the problem is that the 4-2-3-1 works and you kind of create that three center back because you're sort of able to overload one side. You're able to overload that left or that right side. When you play a 3-4-3, you can't really do that. You've got your three sort of static center backs and you can't really shift the play very much. So I think that's why it really wasn't working. They were just getting caught up. Cervenia, I don't understand. I agree with maybe making a change there or trying to swap someone in. I am a little confused by the Brendan Cervenia start over, say, a Borsi now, over, say, someone different.
I think they're in the doghouse, man. I think it has to be. I think he doesn't like what he sees from them on the tape or in training because Cervenia was clearly like was a body guy at
Yeah.
the beginning of the year, and you're obviously making a statement, right? You're trying to make a point after that last game, and that's where you've decided to do it. And there's not, not everywhere on that field you could make a statement. There's not too many places. You're not gonna change your number 9. You only have one right winger when healthy. Your fullbacks are good. That's not really the problem. So you got to make changes somewhere if you're trying to demonstrate that that was not acceptable. So I think that's probably it mostly. And he would love another player there. He just doesn't have one, I think, which is bad because he signed,
It,
both of those
it's
guys.
it's bad because you've got essentially a lot of cap space
Hmm.
devoted to those players. Right now, Peltola is a TAM player and Enal's a TAM player. Both of those players play different styles, I would say. A little more, uh, I would say a little, just like we'll just buzz around the
Physical.
field. Yeah, physical. We'll buzz around the field. We'll push forward. Peltola kind of stays a little more in house. He's not as physical. And that's been partly a problem with him and why he hasn't really been able to be consistent. Um,
I think you need to play him because if it's not working out, I think you should ship him out
yeah.
at the end of the season. I think he admitted like this is the show it season. And if I can't show it, then something's wrong with me. And
Hmm.
I agree, and that is
Yeah.
true. I think I was the first Boris Eno hater in North America. So I feel like you got to give these guys. To your point, you're paying them. You're not winning either. Your last 5 games, you're 1 draw, 4 losses. You've scored 3 goals in that time period. You're about to play even more challenging teams. Like you've made your bed, so you really do need to lie in it to some degree. Putting Cervania out
Hmm.
is not the answer to any of your problems. You got
No,
to
it's not.
basically your path forward is for those choices that you've made to turn out to be good ones. And then if they don't, then you need to leave. Both the talent evaluator and the coach.
Yeah. Timmy says maybe they'll be able to get out some of these contracts. I think we'll see the full year. I think I'm not sure what Enow's market value would have. I would say that Peltola probably would have some
Yep.
relative market value. You got him on a free transfer, so there's a barrier as far as like an investment goes, to what you could get back for him.
No
Um,
interleague value for either of those players. I don't. I
no,
don't.
no
I don't
interleague guy.
imagine.
Certainly some international value, though. I would say for each of those players. I mean, Peltola was being chased by a lot of European teams, and DC kind
So
of stepped
was
in.
so who was the left back with the broken foot that now plays in Sweden again?
Oh,
Jazzy.
oh, Giaz,
Jazz, yeah,
yeah.
also another player being chased by most of MLS, according to Sean Howe and others around the league, and Tom Bogert. So TBD on that. I think it's funny. Like I think there might be like a group chat, like a WhatsApp group chat of GMs and MLS, who's like, "Hey guys, I'm gonna sign this guy. I need everyone to tell them. I need you to be like, oh man, I was going for him too, and I missed out. Dang." And then we promise to do that for all of each other's signings. I think that must be what's going on here. There's the collusion of positive vibes.
A collusion of
That we just
group
got the
chats.
episode title, by the way. Collusion of positive vibes is the episode title.
There we go. Yeah, you know, it, I thought, with this team right now, the way it is, it's talent deficient. It's pretty clear. We came into this year knowing they were only going to have one designated player. We said, okay, but maybe some of these guys will play above their contract. It's not going to be perfect, but maybe it'll be okay. Maybe they'll, sort of play above themselves, and then you can get a DP in the summer or maybe in the late April, and boom, you can really kick it off. And it really just hasn't happened. Benteke, I thought had one of his like weakest performance. I thought it was a little better in the second half. He's out on an island, and there is nobody else on that field that's able to even pose a threat. As positive as it's been for Peglo, he's not that guy. He's not a guy that scares MLS defenses. He's a service delivery. He'll serve the ball, deliver the ball. This team needs another elite talent to kind of share a little bit of that responsibility, because I think DC is becoming very easy to defend. Nick Hagland had the role of guarding Benteke, and he just shut Benteke down in this game. Um, I don't think he really got much. I was curious, what were his aerial chances. He did register 0.48 expected goals. A lot of that came in the second half. I did thought that he came in and did generate some chances, but that first half, I mean, there was just absolutely nothing. And most of it, I would say probably all of it, came in the second half. I was just curious what his aerial duels. Yeah, he was 5 of 9 on aerial duels, 56%, which is, I
An
think,
unusually pedestrian performance by him.
yeah, unusually pedestrian performance by him. Um, any Anything else you want to glean, I guess, from this match? It does feel like this match was like, there's not much. It's the same as what we've seen. Struggles to create much outside of Benteke. Defensive struggles again. A little bit better in the second half again. I don't know. My hope is that what we saw in the second half was maybe a shift change where Troy is like, okay, this pass around the back, try to do build up play is just not going to work. And we just have to go back to just like quick passes, direct play. We get the ball, we move it quickly through the midfield. And I feel like it's something that I think coaches get sucked into this notion of, like, you need to be a passing team, you need to move the ball, we need to have slow methodical build up, we need to do all of this type of stuff. And like, that's a great aspirational thing to have if you have the team to do that. DC doesn't have the team to do that. They don't have if you're going to be a passing team, then you need a player in MLS, in my opinion. You need a number 10 player that can also then see something that not everybody else sees, can see a pass, can see a play, can make a dribble, can make a move on the ball that will sort of open up the game for you if you want to be a team that does that. And they don't have the pieces to do that.
No.
So I think it's time to go back to your roots and go back to the play that really kept you most in games. And, maybe you can work it in this 3-4-3. And if, McNaughton has better performances, maybe you can make it work. But you need, I think, to go back to sort of the, you know, high paced style that allows them to get into better situations when they're running downhill at opponents. I think that makes Stroud a better player. That makes Peglo a better player. That makes Herrera, Schnegg a better player. And I think it also makes Kojima a better player. Um, yeah, that's kind of my takeaway, I guess, from this game. Go back
Pe-
to your roots, Troy.
People were excited about Pirani's second half performance. Don't be if you were. No chances created, no shots on target, 0.02 expected assists. He looked he had one successful dribble. He looked like quasi lively for those few minutes. I think the official position of the show is, if you're going to have this guy in your team, he's a super sub. Just based on a year and a half of data now, that's still borne out to be true. Still hasn't really put it together as a starter ever. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to get excited about this team right now because of the talent deficiency and the fact that we're not going to have a big improvement. Let's talk about the one improvement we're having that's coming this week.
Yeah, news coming out this week. I mean, anything else we really want to glean from this
No,
game? It's really, really, really not much else. I mean, the goal they gave up, I think it's just a classic, like, parting. It was just watching that goal back again, just watching the defense just kind of fold. Like no one was like actually getting in the shooting lane and basically left like an entire lane
I
for
mean, he made it look
Valenzuela.
good. Valenzuela
Yeah,
definitely he's I don't know if the goal of the week stuff is up yet, but he certainly made it look good.
yeah. But yeah, yeah, it was just kind of another capitulation on the defense. And people are asking like elite center back. I think we're stuck with the center backs we have right now. Um, I I will state that I think this team needs to. I think the biggest thing they need to solve right now, if they solve the center midfield issues, I do think there is a possibility we see some better play from both Kai Rolls and Lucas Bartlett, and maybe even Lucas McNaughton as well. I think the center midfield has been the biggest problem area for this team. That is where they lose the ball. That's where they get beat on the transition. I think that is a core part of this problem. I think if you solve that, you're going to get maybe some better data on your defensive pairing. Um,
Mackay needs to do more to improve this team, but maybe ownership is preventing him from doing that. Timothy says ownership is certainly the sort of the watchword right now, and people are taking a look at spend on transfers over the last year and the quantity and amount that is to sort of disprove that. It's a complicated question and answer. I think there are good arguments on both sides. I think what this boils down to is Mackay has to hit everything.
mhm,
He has to be 100%. When you're not gonna spend all of the money and your team has been dog S for 5 years, you have to hit on everything. And then when you McNaughton, there are, like, moves that he's making that are like, "I know better." Like, it was a lack of talent evaluation. McNaughton comes in, injured player from Nashville, but, everyone's talking about, "Oh, he started when he was healthy. He was great. We're gonna bring him in." Randall Leal, we're gonna bring in on a song, can't stay healthy. There's a number of international players like we already just talked about are not seeing the impact we would want to see when they've had some time to settle and an off season and a preseason. I think the buck really stops there. I think if we were still continuing to spend $0, then it would be 100% on the ownership. I think right now it's a good 50-50 split between the ownership and poor choices within the dollars that you've been given. It's just not the choices haven't hit. And two, finally, Rita Zohir and Brandon Cervania and getting rid of Ted Kudipietro in the preseason for $1 million
yeah.
for who cares? Great. To sign whom? Uh, I think that there is just, if you look at this team, what the line we went with, and I still think I think it was a legitimate line, and it was the one that you would need to have to come into a season and do a podcast about this team every week, is that we have raised the threshold of this team. We brought the bottom up to the middle so that the depth is better. The problem is, as someone just said, the starting 11 are super subs. If your team does not have players on it that would start for the teams above you, then your team is not good enough.
Mhm.
You're not on paper, you're not good enough. And until that changes, you could have Mourinho, you could have Pep, you could have whoever you want coaching this team. It's not necessarily going to have drastically different results. The players are the players. So the balance, I think the fault is split 50-50, and you can be mad at both of them. And only one of those people you can fire and one of those people you could encourage to sell. One of those things is easier than the other.
I will make a defense of McKay right now is that the task he is trying to accomplish by overhauling the team in the way he's doing it. And I mean, the fact that really we haven't seen him sign a true designated player yet. I mean, yes, he signed, we could say he signed Peltola, but that was roster maneuvering to get him to fit under the cap hell that the team was under last season. Um, if you do not have designated players in MLS, you are going to struggle. And right now, DC United does not have the full complement of their designated players, even just a second designated player on the actual roster. I am I am willing to, and I want to state too, signing players, and particularly in MLS when you've got cap constraints and everything else, it's difficult. And I
Yeah.
would say it's a mixed bag as far as results are concerned. I would say Kojima has looked good. Peglo has looked good. Schnegg has looked good. Herrera, of course, was, I think, probably the best signing this team has had. He's had good signings in this. He's had also some misses, some perceived misses, I'll say. Like Peltola, we're still, we had maybe an uneven first year. There was some promise. Enau, just arrived. We're sort of getting that data as it's kind of come in. Those players might fail. That's kind of the nature of when you sign players. I think this team, the biggest thing that this team that if I'm Ali Mackay, the biggest thing I want to do is you need to nail that DP. That DP signing has to be a hit. Has to be a hit. I think if you get a hit DP signing, whether that's a number 10 or a winger, it can elevate a lot of these other players that are potentially good and turn them into better stars. Think about that 2018 DC United season. There was a lot of players in there that we thought were kind of average, not really that great. And then Wayne Rooney arrives, and sort of the heads sort of pick up on everybody. Suddenly, Joseph Mora goes from like an average to below average wingback to pretty good. He was at a really good run to finish the year. So I think that's what's really missing from this team is just they have to fill that designated player spot. If it's not in April, it has to be in the summer. They've got to find that spot, and they have to fill it. So I'm willing to give Mackay a little deference because of how much he's turned over the roster. There were some inherent gambles he took on this roster, and some of them are going to work out and some of them aren't. You have to give a GM that type of deference to sort of maybe make some misses when you're overhauling stuff, and then your hope is that you find some good solid pieces. You nail the big signing, and then you can really start to cook. So I think that's where I'll defend Mackay a little bit. And again, you still have to operate within a budget on MLS. You still have to operate with you still have to operate. You can't just go out and spend whatever you want. I want to talk a little bit about, you saw Landon Donovan's comments,
I did see his
about,
comments.
about the ownership and how cheap they are. I think you're right to point out it's a complicated issue with DC United and ownership. Um, I would not classify them as the cheap of the cheap. I think there are other groups out there that spend a lot less.
They're in the club though.
They're
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 they're on the they're on the small boat with those folks, I
they
think.
are on the small boat, and I think I think Jason Anderson pointed out, look at their transfer spend, look at their roster spend. I think where I really hit them and where I still hit them is on their biggest issue is just they are in a league right now that is moving at like a breakneck speed, from salary spend to roster spend to academy building to everything else. And the team itself is just moving at this incredibly slow pace. It took them several years to even get a training facility built. They still do not have an MLS Next Pro team. Those are avenues where I criticize this team. They do not move in a way that says, like, we're going to spend the money to improve this, to make the team on the field better, and we're going to sink some costs. Like, maybe our Next Pro team doesn't generate an amazing talent. They still, for the longest time, did not have their academy that was free. And they're starting to build that, but it's like other teams have been doing that now. The sort of residential academy, having sort of the kids go to online high school. Other teams have been doing that for 5, 6, 7 years. Some have had residential academies. That is the biggest criticism I have for ownership. Now, when it comes to like wanting them to sell, if if I had a choice, would I want the ownership to sell? Absolutely. I would love to have a new owner that would come in that would say, we're going to put a next pro team right now. We're going to play them in Audi Field. And then, yeah, we're still going to explore the Baltimore option. But, right now we need to get a team. We need to get the Gavin Turners, the Christian Fletchers.
The the murals, they're the Christian yeah, they're they could play in Stafford. It doesn't even need to play at Audi Field. It literally does not matter where they play. It doesn't matter if you sell 5 tickets. It's not about, so they're not going to make any money on this. It's so dumb to
Look,
even like.
look at how much money you're wasting on the DC Power.
Yeah,
300 people showed up for that game.
yeah,
And
just flip
you're
that.
Yeah, it's
Sell.
really and, I don't wanna, there are players there that, this is probably one of their few opportunities they're gonna get to play, so I don't wanna take away that opportunity. But if you're gonna do that and you're gonna put that team out there with very little fanfare, no one's going to games, and you're literally, so why not have an MLS Next Pro team? Why not have a team that just plays at Audi Field, might be empty, that's fine.
It might get
Um,
350 fans.
yeah, that's fine. And then yeah, go ahead, pursue the Baltimore idea. Once that's ready to go, kick it off, and then then we're off and running. It's the phrase about other teams are playing, you're playing chess and they're playing checkers. I feel like this team constantly is playing checkers and everybody else in the league is playing chess. Everybody else is thinking 5, 6 moves ahead. They're trying to get that next thing, the next big thing that's going to break. And DC is kind of stuck, and I don't think that's the fault of Ali Mackay. I think that's the fault of ownership for not having the infrastructure ready to really make sure that this team can succeed. So, you know, I, I I think it's something that I hope Ali Mackay. The big hope is that Ali Mackay can actually do it. If Ali Mackay fails, I fails completely, and he's gone within a few years. Um, things are really bad. If he can't at least get a monicum of success, even if he leaves in 10 years, if he doesn't at least leave with like a run where he's built a team that can at least make the playoffs consistently for a couple years, then man, things are you have to ask the question who can succeed in this team.
I would say this: Mackay sees out his contract. There's no reason to cut him short. Give him 3 years. He has 3 years. He's been here a year and a half. Give him three. There's no reason to necessarily give Troy three. Troy does not have a legacy and a history and a defined vision that could only be manifest through his great wisdom. And so you don't need to give him 3 years. If you think there's another way to go there that gives you a short term spark, you can go for that. Mackay, I think that the ownership knew, for whatever you say about ownership spending, they knew like, all right, the previous incarnation, which they oversaw and allowed, sold our future out to pay for the present. So we've got to fix that. So you've got to on F the team. So do that. I'm give you some money so that you can make the team quasi presentable as you do that. That's going to take 2 years, say, maybe three. So you get to the end of that contract. I think, you know, he did not come here with a tracker. He came here as an assistant GM with a team that has never won a trophy. So same thing as Troy. If you give people with pedigrees a long rope, you give people with no pedigrees an opportunity to prove themselves, and if they don't prove themselves, even within a constrained environment and a resource constrained environment, you move on. So I think you give Allie the 3 years and you see where you're at. I think the goal has to be that by that third year, probably next year, you're in the playoffs.
Yeah.
You're in the playoffs and you're in a good situation from a financial perspective. You figured out a way to make people care somewhat about the team, if possible, maybe with that second DP and maybe a third DP next year. And then that's it. Like if he can't do that, then there's no reason to extend him at all. The vision didn't work. Although if the vision was just clear the table and give me a clean slate, then it did work. Because Benteke is gone next year. You can assign your DP however you want to structure that. Maybe mission accomplished. Not great for the fans. Not great for us. But as far as if I'm an owner and I want to say like, all right, well, we got a little crazy there for a couple years and got nothing for it. So let's fix it. It's not going to be exciting, but let's fix it. I don't know.
I think you raise. I will say I do have to give Mackay some credit. The guy is essentially burning. I mean, he already had to kind of burn his first year of his contract and sort of like figure out these kind of savvy moves to bring talent in. It's kind of incredible that really he didn't say, okay, now like we really have to be good. We have to go out. We have to go get players. He's like, you know what? I think I can. I think I can. Essentially halfway burn this year. I think I can build a team that can be competitive and make the playoffs without a DP, which is a real confidence game if that's his
Yeah, it
mind.
is. It is. It is.
But I also think like I'm gonna really kind of burn this year, and then like year three we're gonna just like blow it up. That's what he's trying to set himself up for.
The
And
thing that
and a good point is Benteke back next year. I still like think back. I still think back, man, to like, I'm like, you had to resign Benteke, but is that a decision maybe that you're kind of regretting a little bit from a team building perspective? That it is kind of like you have a player who you have like an actual DP out of the complete and utter mess that was DC United front office ownership, the coaching change, everything else. They hit on a DP in a
they did.
massive, massive way, and you are literally wasting. They literally burned the first the first full year. They burned the second year. Now we're on year 3 of this, and they're burning that third year as well. It's it's kind of wild.
He'll be the most prolific DC United player to never play in a game that mattered.
Yeah, he might actually make
Hall of Tradition.
the Hall of Tradition.
Never made the playoffs. Three
never
X's.
never making the playoffs. Well, Tracy, I will state long season. We are still, second week in April. I would not. People are saying like team is done. They're cooked. They're burned. I'm still waiting to see kind of how the rest of this window goes. They've talked about putting offers for players. Noel Buck, I think, is a player that has, been suspiciously AMSET from New England. Maybe the team's looking at him. That would be a great addition to the center of midfield if
Yep.
DC can go get him. And we've got, we got some players back. Let's talk about one of them. Christian Fletcher. Stephen Goff is reporting that he's returning from Nottingham Forest, which is kind of a surprise. Question coming in from Brendan Cartwright says Goff is reporting Christian Fletcher is returning. Will he be able to make an impact back with DC? I would say at this point, if you're Troy Lesane, I think you get him back, maybe get him resettled back in, and I think you make him a substitute appearance. The big question has been Fidel Barajas. Has not made the bench. Brendan Carr also asking what's the deal with him, and I think some people are pushing back, and that might be true. I think there may be a clear indication. I feel like they brought Fidel Barajas in because they were fairly certain that Fletcher was gone in the summer. Now it looks like he's coming back. I wonder if we're going to hear Fidel Barajas returning to Chivas.
Or they're going to have to share a locker because I think it's getting a little tight there in that room.
Potentially.
Barajas is in the last locker at the end of he's in the corner. So I'm wondering, I don't, there aren't too empty ones at Audi Field.
Yeah. It is interesting, I'd say with Christian Fletcher, he signed on loan with Swansea, lit it up at whatever level they were playing at, comes back, makes a small impact, but doesn't really, scores a goal, I think, but doesn't really have the impact that maybe you're looking for. Now he goes to Nottingham Forest, and like all indications were that this was it. I'm curious where you think. Where does this leave? Where do you think this leaves Christian Fletcher?
Oh man, I think probably in a different team in MLS. I
Wow.
I, I think he's gonna want to go. I think he's gonna. Yeah, I mean he's got to prove it. He's got to prove it in like a league of men. He's playing in like
But
adult
but but
co-ed
you
leagues in England.
but
For
you
these,
think the team is going to take Cutie Pietra in?
I do absolutely. I think he doesn't want to be here. He thinks that you guys don't see myself. You don't see me here. You don't see my talent as being something you want. You keep saying you keep. I want to leave, but you keep on being okay with that. I think you need to give me somewhere else where someone's going to put me in the starting 11, or at least give me a good chance for a run on the side because my career is only so long and I want to play. So if he doesn't play when you bring him back and you give him 5 minutes a game, yeah,
I
man,
I think that'll be what happens if I think he'll come back into the lineup. He'll get through this window, and I think he will get opportunities. I think you have to give him opportunities at this
you
point.
should.
They I think I could argue the team I think has done well by him in the sense that they've given him opportunities to
hmm
go abroad and show it. They can't control that Nottingham Forest looks and they're like, nah, we're good.
And he keeps going to Premier League and Championship teams.
Mhm.
Like no one's making him do that. That's where he that's where he wants to go. So it's just not his level. The problem too, like you remember when he was here at the beginning of last season, I wanted him to play every game. I was
Mhm.
so psyched after his first loan deal. He played 13 games, and most appearances he did not look prepared. Like he did not look comfortable on the ball. He was easily dispossessed. He just did not have the confidence that he had when he was playing abroad. This is the make it or break it for DC United. And I think probably already broke. I think it's just a matter of like this is a inconvenient it's a marriage of convenience here for half this window or for this half year, and then he'll find a new home because I don't think he feels like this is his long term place to be.
Yeah. By the way, his contract, in case you're curious, contract through 2025 with an option for 2026.
So they'll pick up that
Um,
option and then maybe try to sell him and trade him.
I would suspect there are going to be teams out there, um, there are going to be teams out there in MLS with the new cash trade system that will be making some inquiries. Whether DC takes them or not, I don't know. I could also see maybe him coming back and being like, this team is not good right now. This is a good opportunity for me to come in and show
They
show
weren't
what
good
I can do.
last year for much of the season either, so but not this bad, I suppose. I suppose
Well,
that this is different.
well, you had Jared Stroud kind of lock down that roster slot. You had his side of the field. I think was tough to break through. You had obviously Matthias Click. You had players in there that were just more polished and sort of better players than I think right now. He has a situation where, right now you got Gabriel Pirani you're competing against if you were looking for like the attacking midfield. On the right side, Jared Stroud has not been great this year. So I mean, it's an opportunity. I think he will get opportunities. He will get minutes. He will probably get particularly an opportunity in the Open Cup game coming up. I would say pen him down to start that Open Cup game. And maybe this is good. I feel like you come off that. You come off. You were singing the praises of Christian Fletcher
Big time.
after the Swansea loan, and I was like, he's playing well, but let's calm down a little bit. Like I'm looking at some of the score lines in this game, and I wonder if it was kind of a case of maybe too much. So I'm curious. Maybe this felt like a little bit tougher. It was tough for him to break into the lineup. I think he struggled a little bit with injury too. He wasn't scoring the goal lines, whatever academy U23 league Nottingham Forest plays in versus Swansea. This was not. It felt like it was a little bit tougher for him to get moments. Maybe that was a good experience, regardless. Where now he has to fight through things a little bit. Um,
I still wish we had Griffin Yao, personally.
yeah, me too.
That's my regret.
um, Hoya's DCU says who wins, Loudon United or DC United? I think DC United. I come.
Loudoun United Loudoun United does not get shut out. Loudoun United scores on DC United.
Okay. I say that's fair.
That
Yeah.
that happens. I think that's based on their early season performance. I think that's a bet.
Brendan Cartwright, is McKay going to need to clear out a bunch of contracts that check notes McKay handed out?
Yep, that would be how it would go. Yep.
Yeah.
They'll have a cardboard cut up of Dave Casper and be like, somebody did this. I'm not gonna say who did it, but somebody did this.
I mean, it is worth mentioning. I mean, other than Click, who you decided to trade away, not every player you had an option to keep or stay, even if they were brought in by the old administration. You told to keep them. Benteke, Pirani,
Pirani is the big one, the big
the
hairy
big
one
one.
in the
Yeah.
room.
Let's see. Brendan Zabran says, "Do you think the back five formation again? Maybe with Patola in the back three." I think I speculated about this. I was like, if you're gonna play a back three, I'm not sure the center backs you chose were the right ones. And I know they don't like. I think Peltola doesn't want to do. He like. I very much don't want to play center back. But if you're gonna play a back three, that is a spot he could potentially
Where's
excel
Donovan
at.
Pines? That's Donovan Pines music. This back three. Garrison
Uh,
Tubbs, another player who you would think potentially would be a good fit for one of these. Although he's hurt, so he's out. So that's not an option.
Yeah, I wanted to look up. I think
Are you
we
looking
got.
at Donovan Pines numbers? Is that what
No, I'm not looking at Don. We did get a question in our Discord, and I was like, we had a decently good question. All our questions are great, but I just says, I think this is a good one to discuss. DC Ulysses says, true or false? This team is worse than it was last season.
Man, that a simple but very, very, very good question. I think worse. Yeah, I think so.
I'll say true. I will say I think people have the notion that overpaid means players are bad. And I think all the players on the list that were overpaid, but
Hmm.
Martin, there are a lot of players that were overpaid. Martin Rodriguez and Dahome being specifically from last season.
Dahome was bad though.
Dahome was having to play out of position a lot. When he played his natural role, he was semi decent. I would argue he was still a player that did some good things for DC. Same with Martin Rodriguez. There are a lot of players out there that I think DC had on the roster, Matthias Click being one of them, that played well in 2024. even if they were not players that you would classify as being worthy of that position. Click is not worthy of that, was not worthy of that DP slot. You would want a much more impactful player in that DP slot, but he was good. And I think if Mateus Click is out here for this team, I know he's struggling with Atlanta. I think this team is in a lot better shape. Just with his ability to kind of be a creator, I think you could have seen this team play a lot better, but they made that decision. The gamble that Makai is making on this team is that things are bad right now, but when we get to that end of this window, we get to that summer window, we have a DP, and that things will be better in the future, and there'll be improvements amongst the team. Will it happen? You can't say. I don't know. I don't know if it'll happen.
It's a from the chat here. Richard says Connor Antley should take one of the back three spots. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Certainly over. I think over McNaughton. I think that's a.
Honestly, other than like Benteke and Peglo and Schnegg and Herrera, every other spot is certainly up for grabs. I'll throw Kojima maybe into that regard. He's been okay.
Christian Dahome being dog water for Santos Laguna, by the way. Santos Laguna, the worst team in Mexico. He's doing very poorly there too. So I think he may have just been cooked.
Yeah. Arjan has a question for the ref. He's definitely not talking about me. Cincinnati had a breakaway in the first half. The striker got in on goal. He missed, and the offside flag went up. He was offside, not by inches, but by feet, so it was obvious. Do you agree with the policy of letting the play go instead of just putting the flag up right away? I think it's a nature of kind of where we exist with VAR, and what you have to remember about a lot of the referees out there, they are being told to hold the flag. They are being monitored for that. They are also being assessed. Like, there are people out there assessing their performance. I think what people like forget about referees is, like, every single match, these upper level matches especially, there is somebody out there watching them, and there is somebody out there assessing them and grading them and seeing whether they're still going to be there. So if they go, even if it's obvious, they go put up their flag, they might get dinged on their performance for saying, nope, you should have held the flag. You should have held the flag until the possession change. It's the nature we live in with VAR.
The assessors are also recording Ted's games on the weekend and saying, I think he's ready to go up. I think MLS needs this man.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. I get assessed by my peers in high school.
Oh, it's
and
a
adult
360
league.
review.
Yeah, basically, I get assessed by the referees out there on the field.
Sean Broussard says, did Mackay gamble too much with the Kim signing? Seems like he should have gone with an experienced keeper instead. He did both.
Yeah,
that's why Barraza played last week. So I think we did not spend. He's not on a DP deal. We clearly didn't have other under 22 players in mind. Otherwise, all the slots would be filled, and they're not. So was it a risk? Yeah, they're all risks. I think, particularly a young goalkeeper, there is a sort of a growing pains you're going to go through. I don't begrudge it, and I don't think he's done. Right? Let's not burn him here. He was at the other end of a 6-2, 6-2 or 6-1. I'm remembering 6-1 thrashing, and then the game in Orlando City as well. Give him a rest. He's still sort of dealing with some shoulder issues a little bit, I believe. He'll be back.
Don't
bury him yet.
I think he starts. I think the idea is keep him. Your hope is you're bringing Barraza, who's a little more experienced goalkeeper, to maybe show him some things and kind of learn a little bit from him. I think the biggest issue we saw from him was sort of his inability to kind of manage the defense or to sort of manage certain situations. And you got peppered 6-1. I think it was appropriate to be like, all right, just sit down. We're not going to break you and just throw you back out into the wolves. Kind of reset. I think he'll start the Open Cup game. I fully expect him to be out there. That might be a moment to kind of have him sort of gain some confidence, and then you can start maybe to phase him back in.
Jordan Farr twiddling his thumbs. Hey, come on, man. Come on, Open Cup, man.
I mean, he's well aware of the situation. So
maybe when Hopkins and Karamoko get healthy, it'll be like we signed 2 dynamic attackers in June. I don't think so. Particularly, I don't know what Karamoko.
I think is close to being healthy too.
No, not even for it'll just be like we're signing 2 players.
Yeah,
Hopkins, throw him into the midfield mix. Where I'd certainly rather see him than than Cervania. I think I'd probably rather see him, depending on where in the field. It would be funny if he reverts back to his wing days. They put him back out there. They're like, hey, you want to play where Jared Stroud's playing? Give it a shot. What are you doing out
Yeah,
there? And then Karamoko, we have no idea. We've got zero idea. So
zero knowledge. Mackay
who
was really
knows?
high on him, and he did his college drafting. I mean, Murrell has turned into at least a serviceable player, and scored a bicycle kick, obviously too. So I think maybe we got to give some deference to his ability to scout in scout in college. So we'll see. I mean, the season. I will say I don't think the season is cooked. I don't think the season is completely cooked yet. I think there are still opportunities where you could see the team improve. Um, I think there are. I want to see again what Mackay does with the DP slot. Does he bring somebody in? I think right now the team is just dealing with a massive talent deficiency, and they need some other major players to kind of step up and be real big difference makers and to sort of elevate a lot of other players out there on the field. So we'll see, man. We might be, they got next week against the Red Bulls.
That's
I
a
would say
loss.
You think it's a loss?
Yeah,
Red Bulls are having the struggles, man. They got a 36-year-old DP attacker who has not looked great coming out.
he still
Um,
has more goals than anybody other than Benteke on our team.
Fair. That's a fair point.
Which again, the threshold there is one. So similar to last year, the game. That's the thing we should have done as our. I think maybe we did it for our
Yeah,
predictions. Who will be the first player to score more than one goal that isn't named Christian Benteke?
we talked about it. I think I got my money on Kojima. I think Kojima will find a goal. He's already got one, so
He's
I think
halfway
he's like
there.
the closest. He's closest to being there. Yeah, guys, I think that's gonna do it. Anything else you want to add or drop or?
Just that the congrats to the Spirit on a 2-0 victory over recent
Yeah,
Louisville with a great goal by Lacey Santos, another headed goal by Ashley Hatch, who is going to break the. I think she's 2 goals from Alex Morgan on the all time charts, and I think she's like 8 or 9 goals from third. She'll get there.
yeah.
She's going to get there.
Talk about a team that is dealing with a ton of injuries. Like, I mean, there are players out. Trinity Rodman is like still not 100%. She came off the bench, probably back from international breaks. They're probably not trying to rush her back. Croy Bethune is still not there. They have,
They could feel the team with their injury report.
yeah,
A good one.
basically. Oleana Sarr is still not out there, and they are still managing to put together performances, put together wins. Lacey Santos, I think, has been excellent. Bernal has been excellent. Yeah, a lot of great.
And you talked about Mura I think last game. Really, really like the way she plays. There were some debuts as well. Gift Monday gets her debut. Keisha Silla has already played a little bit, but she's an interesting player in defense. It was weird they had this lead, but Louisville did look dangerous somewhat. They had a lot of the ball in the second half, but I think they I don't think Kingsbury was called into action too much. The game, obviously, this was the appetizer to nothing. The real game comes up, and they play Orlando at 5 o'clock on Saturday. That's going to be the game to watch.
Mhm.
Particularly after the what do they call in that game at the beginning of the year? Champions Cup,
The
the
Challenge Cup.
Challenge Cup, like literal, yeah. So after that, this will be the first time for them to play in a competitive match that counts all the way. And if the Spirit
How
can get,
dare you, sir? How dare
I'm
you besmirch the
I besmirch
legacy of the Challenge Cup?
if it's not the U.S. Open Cup or CONCACAF Champions League, I don't care about it. Uh, I think I think it will be tough once again, sort of with this team. Maybe they'll be able to sneak out some more players off the injury report. I did notice that Trinity Rodman in warmups wears like an old man back brace, like a stimulator for her lower back. I mean, we talked about it a couple weeks ago. She thinks that this is going to be a chronic problem. She's never really going to be over with all the way. So watch this space. She still does not look herself quite clearly and not dynamic. She scored for the U.S., but I still think I've not seen her play the way that she can play for the Spirit yet since last year, the middle of last year. But I'm very excited to see what happens on Saturday. I think it's going to be a really good game. And if they can get a win here, then they're off to the races. And watch out once again.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a good season, and the fact they're able to put together these wins with the injuries and not being firing at all cylinders, is something to watch. All right, folks, that's gonna do it. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll catch you guys next week. Vamos.
Vamos. Done. Oh,